What's up, guys? It's Elmer Brown Enriquez, your host of Artistic Visions, the show where we like to go in-depth with young artists at OCAD, talk about their art, what they like to talk about in their art, and what they would like to talk about in their art. In today's episode, I got very special guests, plural, Francis and Anthony.
Hello.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's just go straight into it. Who are you guys, and what kind of art do you guys usually make?
You want me to take this first? So I'm Francis Pitsadiotis, and I make a lot of oil paintings, collage. I've been exploring a lot of mixed media lately with wax, some sculptural material, some paper mache. I work predominantly in allegory. I like to use symbolism in my work. I like to explore personal and universal themes. And yeah, that's what I'm excited to be showcasing for thesis too. Pretty vague, but don't want to give too much away.
Yeah,
so.
you can't give everything away. Yeah. I'm Anthony Micallef. I'm an experimental process-based worker. I usually play with photography and mixed media collages and drawing and some little painting here and there, but not a whole lot. Yeah, it's all about the process for me. I usually make stuff that's very intrinsic to myself and my introspection, and it's very existential, and I kind of ride that wavelength of like beauty and disturbing.
Yeah, no, awesome, awesomely said. I love what you guys do. Let's start with the first piece, and we'll start with Francis's work first. Children of Children. And what do you want to say about in this piece?
What do I want to say? Yeah, there's so much. This is why I think that when I'm describing what I do as an artist, it's easier to just to see an actual visual representation of what I do, because I do explore a lot of themes involving anxiety and beauty, and I kind of created a work that amalgamated those two together, predominantly about freedom and also using like some archetypal imagery with this mother and kind of stunted adult child that is causing this relationship, this paternal or maternal relationship, to become stunted in what it naturally would be.
Yeah, no, I will say right off the bat, it's so, it just catches your eye like right off the bat, and like I really love what you do with your lines, because it reminds me, especially when you draw more human-like figures, you use your lines, and it always reminds me of like their muscles. It's almost like a muscle kind of texture.
That's awesome that you say that.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going with here, because there was a piece that I eventually want to explore that has to do with bodybuilding and kind of like the distortion and kind of the warping of the figure, but it's a natural form still with just excessive muscular proportions and things like that. And I found that with a child that has grown and is still kind of like attempting to feed on the breast milk of its mother, I figured that having those, a more muscular body would emphasize that the child is no longer meant to be consuming its mother's milk anymore. It's not meant to be kind of getting that excessive form of nutrients or nutrition from her. So I don't know, I think it also worked well with the hair, and I just love playing with texture as well. So
no, your textures and your colors, like especially how you're using the yellows to bring out even more reds, but like I really love almost like the gripping of the hair, and the eyes are almost like kind of popping out, and it's like strenuous on the mother. And it just gives like almost this like an anxiety-inducing image of like what's gonna happen after this is done, because like it seems like someone in this image is definitely falling apart, and like it's very grotesque in a way, but it's so just with the lines. It's like I follow like I obviously start with the mother, but it flows down to the child, and the child blends in with the mother really well, and I really like that, because it takes a while to really understand. Oh wait, that's like being breastfed by your mother kind of thing. But again, like I just absolutely love your textures and the colors that you're using, and just like even the hair, like the hair detail and like how it goes on the ground, and just I don't know, I feel like it's pulling it even more down, like it gives a more strenuous like feeling to it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that you said like I'm curious to know what happens after the scene, because a lot of the time when I'm making my paintings, I do want there to be a reflection on what happens next, what's going to be going down past this static representation of whatever is going on, whatever the theme is. So that was the intention, is to kind of get this idea, this whether or not she's going to reach for the scissors, whether or not she's going to remain kind of stuck in this stunted environment
Yeah.
with her son. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I really love this piece a lot, but we will move on to Anthony's piece,
Yeah.
which you call emotional pornography.
Yeah.
And what would you like to say about this piece?
Well, this one is like a prelude to what thesis is going to be for me, which is called emotional pornography. There's a lot of like symbol in there that I didn't intend for to really show up, but it just manifested as I made it, because I'm a process-based worker. So I didn't start this thinking of how it was going to end up. I just knew that I had these older images that I had previously created, and I'm trying out a new technique with like these image transfers. So I was trying to just play with composition, and then it turned into this, which kind of plays into what is going on with thesis, which is I'm essentially just like bearing my soul, essentially. Which is why it's
As
called.
we all do.
As we all do,
Yes, exactly. Which
Well,
is why
not
I
all
call.
of us, not all of
No,
us.
but a good chunk of people do. I feel like regardless
You'd
of
like
if
to
you're,
hope.
you'd like to hope. I mean, the artist is always in the work, whether or not they are literally or not. I mean, I'm not literally in this work, but this is very much so like there.
Yeah, it's your style. It's who you are.
Yeah,
and
very
what you
much
feel,
so.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but make work that is just very much so like pulling from my gut. I mean, I don't process things very well. A lot of it gets blacked out. So when I make, it's automatic, and then when it shows up and it materializes, I'm like, ew.
That's what comes with the artistry and
Yeah.
just creating is like just figuring stuff out and figuring yourself out through
Yeah,
pieces, right?
exactly. I mean, it's my own therapy, so it's a very selfish way of making work, but I think it's effective.
Yeah,
For
well,
me.
it helps you create things, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
eventually start being able to talk and more, be able to materialize your feelings and put
Yeah.
it into a visual, right?
Yeah, well, it's very reflective. I mean, you don't really think about it until like you see what it is, and then you can pick apart why those symbols are there and see how they relate.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Talk about the piece and its composition. Colors. I love your guys' like color usage.
Oh,
you guys
thanks.
have your own palettes, I feel like.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, you have a more like cool aspect to it too.
Yeah.
Which I think you guys like almost contrast. I was just saying this before, but you guys' art like styles and art just
Yeah.
colors contrast each other really well, and even how you guys use shapes. You're using more circular shapes, for instance, but when I'm looking at Anthony's, you're using more like rectangular and very straight edge
Yeah.
shapes.
Sharp.
Yeah,
Sharp,
very sharp.
yes.
Oh, what's the word? Sleek.
Sleek.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, no, I do think it's really funny because we have been making, like, our whole art career essentially has been, like, side by side.
Well,
So
yeah, because we've known each other for
we're going on 10 years.
10 years.
Oh,
coming
wow.
up. Yeah, so.
Congrats with that 10-year goal.
We've seen the progression, the evolution of both of our ways of making.
Yeah, we've even seen,
so
like,
long.
every, like, iteration of each other.
Well,
up
yeah,
until this
even as
point.
people as well. So it's fun to get different opinions on what people feel about our work, because some people actually say that our work is quite similar, and then oftentimes people will say it's extremely different or contrasting, as you said. And I think it will be exciting to mesh that together in a collaborative project. And
Yeah.
Yeah, see
Well,
how
yeah.
it exists together.
That's why thesis is so exciting because we're going to be showing everything, like, together.
Yeah, like we're gonna have our individual work and then
Yeah.
also create a sculpture that will be having these like contrasting elements, like this sharpness, but also with the organic shapes, and finding a way to kind of match the two or marry the two into one.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because we live on like two opposite sides of the spectrum, I think, but it's the same spectrum, which is why like your colors I feel like are just so much more natural and like they exist in like a grounded, like earthly state, even if they're like, I don't know, with Children of Children, like that's not very earthly, but
It's pretty red. It's
It's
pretty
very red.
fleshy, I guess.
yeah. I usually go into like high saturation
Yeah,
or black and
very
white,
much,
so
very
it's
much.
like,
That ultramarine pop.
I love ultramarine.
Yeah, it's a great. No, I love the color because I totally agree. Like, I think it contrasts pretty well. Yeah, I can understand maybe the similarities, but
Yeah.
Maybe in
the-
theme, like
theme,
the
yeah. Yeah.
symbolism, perhaps.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would love to move on to
Yes.
talking about more of the themes.
course, yeah.
I think we've already touched on what themes you've already talk about in your art, but what would you guys like to try and touch on in future pieces?
So exciting.
Yeah. I'm just going to continue doing kind of this like situation
Ripping yourself open.
yeah, I feel like I'm skinning myself every time I make a new piece, but I think that's essentially where my direction is kind of headed. I mean, I want to just continue exploring material and like play with different ways of creating, because I'm minoring in photography as well, although I know nothing about photography. I have
You know more than me.
well, yeah, more than you, but you know, really just trying to hone in on like different ways of making and just producing, because yeah, I mean, as I said before, like it's all like automatic work, like it's not premeditated. So I'm sure I'll touch on different ways of viewing the world and myself and others, but yeah.
I'm really interested in also being pretty personal with the work that I'm currently making for thesis, but also keeping it in a realm of universal understanding too. Like I want to explore things that I think a lot of people can relate to, or a lot of people would have their own particular feelings towards. There's going to be a lot of eroticism in my work going forward. There's going to be a lot of androgyny. There's going to be a lot of exploration of, you know, kind of religious or mystical philosophy involved in that. But I'm not really using religion in a very direct sense. Like I'm using it as a different means of trying to get at the same philosophical inquiries, I guess. Like I think that there's a lot of things in religious text that gets overlooked because, you know, a lot of people maybe take religion more literally, but I think metaphorically.
Well, it's all very allegorical.
Exactly, it's
It's
very
literally all
allegorical.
allegory.
And I think that's really relevant, especially with mysticism. I think it gets at like these metaphysical ideas and this like human desire to reach towards things that are beyond your self or beyond your physical identity. And so I really want to get at that and see how the erotic and the worldly can kind of mesh into all one thing, one idea, or maybe like an overlapping rather than a duality.
Yes.
So.
Well, I can say that what you guys are saying right now, I'm very excited to, you know, hear and see your thesis piece.
I'm very excited.
Sounds very like filled with ideas, and I really like the idea that you guys are collabing. I'm gonna go off the script here with my questions.
Do your thing.
Because I know.
Better.
Yes.
But because I know you guys had a collaborative show, and you obviously you guys have been talking about collaborating for thesis specifically, and how has that been comparatively to, you know, working on your own art piece? Obviously, you guys talked about like how you guys, you know, kind of go to each other for advice or you know, thoughts, but how is it when you're individually creating work and then now collaborating and kind of working in the same realm together?
Very good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think that's kind of what it's about too.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. I mean, we have that sculpture that we're making that kind of hits that note, which is essentially where we both kind of, again, we started taking art seriously together, like at the same time. So there was a lot of clashing initially.
Well, yeah, because there was, I think that when you're beginning to form your identity, whether or not it's as an artist or outside of being an artist, you want that to be your own. Like it becomes a very individual thing. And that's always been a challenge when your partner is doing the same practice as you. You know, you're going to compare your work. You're going to wonder, are you doing the right things? Are they doing things that I'm not getting at? And it starts to kind of mesh into a bit of a competition. I mean, I don't think it's always the case.
No, I don't think it's always the case
but
either.
When we were fresh, when we were younger, it was more difficult to avoid because people would always kind of make comments about our work and be like, oh, your work is too similar.
We literally had a professor that like just dismissed us right away and said they make the same stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which was intense, and I didn't think we were making the same
No,
stuff.
because
personally.
literally with those two pieces that he was specifically talking about, we had like
not
like
to air out old drama.
No, but it was literally like a sculpture and like a drawing that we're talking about completely different things.
He
just didn't like us. He just didn't like
I
us.
was shocked, yeah. But like, anyways, to go back on the original question, yeah, I think that at first it's difficult to kind of relinquish this need to have, this is my thing, this is my individual identity, and then this is yours. And I think we're trying to challenge that. Like, we've always done collaborative pieces on our own, but
Just
never
like for
really
fun,
to showcase until we had our show. And we thought it would be pretty intimate and fun to showcase the exquisite corpses we would do together. And we felt like doing a sculpture together would really
Well, it's like a 3D exquisite corpse, essentially.
create that in the physical world, and also challenge us to not hold on so strongly to certain like preconceived notions of what's mine, what's yours,
Yeah.
what makes me an artist, what makes you an artist.
Yeah. It also helps that we kind of have our own like visual language, and we use our own like materials, so to say. Like there's overlap, obviously. Like you can't help it. Like we both like to draw, and we use ink and whatnot. But
We both use symbolism. And like I
yeah.
think that
Well, I mean, that's
a-
just like intrinsic
yeah,
to
that's
art, right?
intrinsic to art. You can't avoid overlap, and I like
Mm-hmm.
the idea of overlapping from this
Yeah.
because it's necessary. Like you can't hold on so intensely to, you know, this is who I am. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of the idea too. Is like
Yeah.
in these religious texts, it's trying to get at something beyond, you know,
The self.
the self,
self, yeah.
exactly, and become selfless. And I think that with this creation together, you know, you have to become selfless in some form. Like you can't split that into
No.
two parts. It's supposed to be one thing.
Yeah.
It becomes more of like, who am I, and more into who we are kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah.
it's more representative of a wider situation, right? Like
Yeah.
other than, because I feel like as artists, we're always in our own world, like, oh, I want to make this, and I want
Yeah.
to talk about this. But like, yeah, when you're going to collaborative, it's more about, okay, what do we want to talk
You have
about?
to compromise.
Yeah, there's a lot of compromise.
I think, yeah, one of our professors said it best, like two holes making another hole in this piece.
Yes. Yeah, that was really lovely actually to hear. She's very
Yeah.
excited for our sculpture.
Yeah, and I am too, honestly. I like hearing you guys talk about the collaborative process of it. I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with. I'm not gonna hesitate to come and see it whenever it's
Please
out.
do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So thesis, GradX, you know,
Grad X
they'll be there.
2K24, be there, be square.
Ooh, there you go. There's the information right there. You know what? That will be it for this interview. But before I end off this episode, is there anything you guys would like to plug, promote, or put out there for the
shit.
world to know?
Right now, I'm working on a website, so I don't currently have that, but I do have an Instagram finally, because I deleted that for many years, and now I have it again.
Back on the grid.
Back on the grid. Back on the grid. And yeah, it's Screamin' Frank, so SCREAMIN, and then Frank spelled FRANC. And that's me.
Yeah, scream for us, baby. Yeah, I don't have any big projects coming on right now because my whole brain is in thesis
It's
right
all
now.
thesis.
It's all thesis
It's all
right now. It's
thesis
all
brain.
thesis. It's just but yeah, my Instagram is Skitebird, SKITEBIRD.
Great Instagram name.
Yeah, no, great names all around. But thank you guys for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having
and-
us.
Yeah,
no,
thanks for having
I
us.
appreciate the time you guys brought on and talked about and with your art, and I really love both of your pieces. I'm so excited to see your guys' thesis work and the collaboration, because you don't see that often in thesis.
No.
You
No,
don't see it
that's why
often.
we were like, we gotta do this.
Well,
gotta
it's,
make
I
it
feel like
happen.
it's just like so full circle. Like we just like
It is
gotta
full
do it.
circle.
It is full circle. Yeah.
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 But yes, thank you guys for coming on the show, and thank you for watching this episode of Artistic Visions. I cannot wait to see you guys very, very soon. Take it easy, and I hope you have a great week, weekend, or general day. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Bye.